Denise, how are you?
Hey Nick, how are you?
I'm good.
Good to be here.
Good. I'm happy to have you. Denise, we start all of these with allowing our guests to have a little bit of an elevator pitch. Denise Tyson, who are you? What do you do?
So thanks. So Denise Tyson, I'm an insurance executive. I'm located in Southern California and I've been in the industry for more than 20 years. So I like to broad strokes. But right now, my newest venture is an Insurtech, and we created a software product that can identify potential nuclear verdicts in a live claim file. So most people know what a nuclear verdict is. It's $10 million dollars or more in a jury verdict or a settlement. And through a lot of hard work and a great team, we were able to build a software product that can help us identify them before they happen in a live claim file, not at trial. We don't have to get that far for our product to work.
Yep. So, which is would create a ton of value in the insurance ecosystem. For the audience sake, we did discuss nuclear verdicts with Casey Lynch 2 or 3 weeks ago on our podcast. I will put the link to that episode in the show notes. But this one's more about that conversation was around the concept of nuclear verdicts and what defense attorneys and insurance companies should be doing. Yours is technology. Yours is
Correct.
being able to use some sort of predictive model to look at a current set of claims and say, this one and this one have some degree of propensity that it could mushroom into a nuclear verdict. Is that correct?
Exactly. So without giving away too much of our secret sauce, because we are an insurtech, we started with industry data on jury verdicts and settlements, and our data scientists analyzed what actually ended up as a nuclear verdict, and then they were able to figure out the attributes, not the individual attributes, the attributes when existing together with other attributes, that when they were all there, that's what drove a nuclear verdict. And so as an insurance executive, I want to do anything I can to improve my bottom line. And by stopping just one nuclear verdict, I can do that.
Geez, if you stop one nuclear verdict, you save $10 million.
Exactly.
And now they have terms like thermonuclear or hypernuclear, god nuclear. Like it's getting crazier and crazier. So the name of the company is Schaefer City Technologies. So before I continue, I got to know, like, where'd the name come from?
Okay. So,
It sounds like
um,
a beer.
wow. Okay. So let me say something else though. So I started the company with my brother, Bob Tyson, and Bob wrote a book about nuclear verdicts 4 years ago, which kind of put us on this path. And I can jump back to that in a second. But so Bob and I grew up in New York, in Staten Island specifically. And our dad used to drink a beer called Schaefer beer. And Schaefer had a slogan, and it said, "You're sitting pretty in Schaefer City." And what it meant was, when you're at your pinnacle, at your idea of success, you are sitting pretty in Schaefer City. And so our dad refers to that all the time, and he thinks we're in Schaefer City. And so that's why we have the name Schaefer
Well,
City.
I love the name and I love the logo has the electron orbits. So it's
Yeah.
nuclear. Get it? There you go. Very nice. Very nice. So a little bit about you, Denise. When I was doing research, you have an accounting background. You have been an insurance exec, right? What
Yep.
gives you the right or the authority to lead an insurtech company?
Because I would be unique in that I'm an insurance person at an insurtech. So I've
Mhm.
worked at other insurtechs where I was the only insurance person at the company. And I'm like, wait a minute, how did this company start if you don't have any insurance people? And so I'm not a big fan of the word disruptor. I actually think of our insurtech as a helper. Like Schaefer
Mhm.
City is here to help the insurance industry. We're not here to disrupt it. I don't want to take away anybody's job. I want to make the industry better for the whole, all of society. And
Yeah.
that's why we started the company.
We want to take away jobs from plaintiffs' attorneys.
Yeah, that's okay.
That just them though. So if for anyone that has not made the connection yet with Denise's last name, um, your brother is part of a national law firm, Tyson and Mendez, which
Yep.
is one of the most successful defense attorneys firms as well. So you didn't have to rely on just like you didn't have to go to the law library. You guys had your own law library. Can you talk a little bit about like so the book Nuclear Verdicts came up, but can you walk us through the timeline? Like what led to we need to build some technology. This is a serious problem.
Sure. So I think the book came out a little over 4 years ago, and Bob has been around the country multiple times talking to thousands and thousands of insurance people. And the number one question he gets asked is, hey, Bob, that's great that when we go to trial, we're going to call your firm and you're going to defend us. But right now, I have this inventory of claims sitting on my desk. How do I know if I don't have one right now? And so he used to joke, he would make, silly comments about it when he get to ask that question because he had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And probably 2 years ago, he came to me and he's like, I keep getting asked this question. What do you like? What do you think? And I'm being the insurance person. I'm like, well, I think we can figure it out. He's like, you do? I go, yeah. I said, we just need data and we need people. And so the very first thing I did was I figured out where to get the data from because the insurance industry has so much data. We go back, what, a couple hundred years of data. So I was able to find the data. Then I had to find the people. And as a startup, we don't have a lot of money. So someone I worked with, a tech guy, said to me, why don't you reach out to like colleges or universities and see if they have like a research? I'm like, oh my God, that's a great idea. So I sent 2 emails. I sent one email to where I got my undergrad at Villanova University. And I sent the second email to where I got my MBA at UCLA Anderson. Sent them both at the same time. The very next day, the dean, because I sent them to the deans, because I know who the deans are. Sent them to the dean. The dean of Villanova's business school wrote back to me the very next day, Denise, we'd love to help you. And so I'm just waiting for UCLA because, I've worked with them for a while. I'm like, waiting, nothing comes. I'm like, okay, dean, I'm ready. And so the dean put me in touch with a couple of professors. I had a bunch of meetings with them. And then one of them stepped forward and said, I want to do this. And it's Dean Nathan Coates. He's in the business school and he's a data scientist. He's an engineer by background. And he took the project on in one of his MBA programs, in one of his classes, as a real life problem for them to solve. And so they did it in the summer of 2022. So we started maybe the beginning of 22, got the data. They did their analysis in the summer of 2022. And by September of 2022, we had our very first algorithm that could predict nuclear verdicts in a live claim file.
Yeah. I think there's a lesson here for other Insurtech startups. That's a win-win for you and for Villanova. Hey, haven't you guys won enough NBA or basketball championships? Like, leave some victories for the rest of us. But that's a win-win, right? Like, they get
Yep.
practical experience building something and learning how to deal with commercial markets and how a commercial product needs to be staged and built up and when it's ready to go to market. And then, like, what the go-to-market strategy is going to be. They get to see that sort of thing. So that's a win-win, right? And so,
Yep.
okay, now you get a product. How do you sell it?
Now,
How do you
well, so no, now we have an algorithm.
now you have an
The
algorithm, so you don't
next
have a
step
product,
is
you don't even have a product yet.
no, we have an algorithm, and that is in the ether, right? Nobody even knows what that means. That's just a nice buzzword everybody's been using. So I had to take that and make it something tangible. And so I had the guy who gave me the idea about going to the universities, he actually runs his own Insurtech company called Exemplar, and they service the personal lines industry. And he said, yeah, I can take it and I can productionize it for you. I'm like, okay. And so then we started down that path and we had to come up with, well, what are we giving to people? Like, what do they want? Like, what do they need? Like, we can solve it, but what do they get? What are we going to give
CD-ROM,
them?
CD-ROM, here you go.
Yeah, like what do they get? And so we had to build a website.
Mhm.
We had to, come up with the colors. We had to do all that stuff. But basically, we created a scoring system on a scale of 1 to 10. First, we were thinking, should it be letters, ABC? Should it be 1 to 100? What should it be? And we settled on 1 to 10, red, yellow, green, a high, medium, low. And I got the idea from parking lots. You know, when you go to a parking structure and it's like, oh, did you park on the elephant level? Or no, I parked on the purple level. I parked on the circle. They all happen to be the same floor. And so it's just, you know, different ways that different people think. And so I was like, I got to make sure everybody gets this. It's got to be simple and for everyone to grab.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that company created and productionized the algorithm. And so I would say it was ready for market. We did a soft launch in February of 23 at a CLM event in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went live in March of 2023.
So what was the market reaction?
So the first question I ask people is, do you want to stop nuclear verdicts? And everybody says yes, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, great. And then everyone said, oh, you can't do that. I was like, I can. Look, I'll show you. I got a little video. You know, I can show you. I can do it. And so we've been pounding the pavement ever since.
Yeah.
And it's going well. The best part about it is no one has said no. No one has said, I don't need that. No one's, oh, I've done that already. We're all set. No, thank you. So
Yeah. So when it comes to nuclear verdicts, is it like cancer? Like the sooner you catch it, the more likely you're going to have a positive outcome?
that is the way we look at it. Because of all these hundreds of pitch meetings that we've had and demos we've done, a lot of people are like, well, can I just give you like the top 10 I'm worried about? And I'm like, you're already worried about them. What else can I tell you? You're the expert, right? You want me to attach it first notice of loss. If I attach my product to first notice of loss, I'm going to know something before you do. Because claims departments in insurance companies, having run them, they have a process. And on the first day they do something, on the 30th day they do something, on the 45th day. Our product can jump the line. Because on the 12th day, we might know a piece of information that you might not share until the 90th day when it gets moved to a BI examiner. But on the 12th day, I'm giving you a number that's not green. And now you can do something
There's an
different.
issue. There's an issue.
Exactly.
Someone should look into this. So
Yep.
it's basically that hiding cancer cell, right? Like if you've already been diagnosed, you're getting the treatment. You're getting the
Right.
full treatment. This is like you're getting your physical and you want to try to detect the skin cancer or whatever, like in its earliest possible stage. I was watching a video on this, and the scientists were saying we have a cure for cancer. It's called early detection. And it sounds like we have a cure for nuclear verdicts. It's called early detection, right? It
Exactly.
allows you the opportunities to fix things, make sure you're not in bad faith, but also potentially to mediate or recognize, like, you know, we should probably settle this or do something, you know, non-offensive to the plaintiff and kind of close this thing out before it festers into something that's uncontrollable, right?
Exactly. Don't let it sit there for 2 years while the process goes through the process. You
Yeah.
know, get in front of it. You now have, and you have information. Yeah, talk about negotiations, talk about settlements, and get it closed much faster than going to trial.
Okay. So without spilling secret sauce, are there any known variables that you wouldn't mind sharing of, like, here are some things that, like, generally kind of red flag a claim that there's a problem?
I can tell you what we put into the algorithm. So we've put in jury verdicts and settlements, right? And so we know the answer. We've put in, there's a list out there, you probably know about it. It's called the Millionaires Club. And it's a list of plaintiff attorneys who've hit for $1 million or more. We have all of them in our database. We have all those jurisdictional hellholes. We have them in our database. And we have the words, the things that when my brother and his partners are at trial, that they're hearing the plaintiff say, we have those words in our database. So those things all combined, again, with the injuries and with the age, sex, and marital status of the injured party, all of that together is what's generating the risk score.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with a former defense attorney, and he was he was indicating like just how valuable it is to not go to jury or go to court around that, because there is a stereotype that the plaintiff's attorney can feed into. And he actually gave a story about a case where he was defending that, where a student died on campus and the plaintiff's attorney was reading letters the student wrote to their parents. And he's like, everybody was crying. He's like, Nick, I was crying. And I'm like, well, I guess you lost. He's like, yeah. He's like, he's that it is not. He didn't say it was amazingly simple, but he's like, the playing field is tilted, and a good plaintiff's attorney can really kind of stick the finger in the scar and in the wound and kind of make everybody wince around that. So it really is. I think for Schaefer City and everything that we're talking about, it really matters greatly to identify these as quickly as possible and settle them and make sure they don't get to that, because your settlement is likely not to be nuclear.
Correct.
So the only
Yeah.
chance it has to be nuclear is getting in front of a sympathetic jury, right?
Exactly, exactly. And that's really what's in the book that my brother wrote. And he's actually working on a second book that's coming out, I think, in Q1 of next year around nuclear verdicts, but it's more data driven. But so the product that we're just talking about it's called NAVAL, and it stands for nuclear verdict exposure likelihood. And it's also the current color orange, which is one of our colors of the company. So, but we have a second product that we're
Mhm.
working on that's tied to the book, it directly to the book, and it will provide trial strategy based on the four of the methods. There's like 12 methods in the book, but there's four really key methods that if a defense attorney follows when they're at trial, those four methods are what keeping the nuclear verdicts away. And so this, using generative AI, we can generate a nice PDF report of, hey, based on the inputs you gave us and based on everything that you've told us about the dollars and the people and the injuries, here's what you should do when you go to trial. So opening arguments, closing arguments, and facts to help with the four methods.
Yeah, and I think I saw the name of the product. Is it Big Blue?
Big Blue.
Big Blue. Okay. Is there a reason why it's called Big Blue? Why not orange?
So I might get this story wrong, and I'm not giving credit to the person, but there's a book written about blue oceans and red oceans.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And so red ocean is where most people live. And I don't know, maybe the red has to do with blood in the water. I'm not
Bloody,
really sure,
bloody.
but
Yep. Red
okay.
blood. Yep.
So red oceans, everyone's vying for a piece of the red ocean and everyone's trying to do the same exact thing. Blue ocean is there's nobody over there. It's a brand new idea. And so this that my brother came up with is a brand new idea. Share the strategy. Let everybody have it. Get out of the red ocean and create your own blue ocean.
Love
And so
it.
that's why it's called Big Blue.
Yeah. I didn't know if there was an IBM tie or University of
No.
Michigan alum that's the data scientist or something. Okay, so why stop at nuclear verdicts? Couldn't we use this predictive modeling technology to sort of red light, yellow light, green light all claims in terms of like these can be problematic? I'm thinking selfishly in Florida here, where we just went through a litigation crisis, right? And I think it would have been extremely useful for Florida insurers to know you're likely to get sued for this one, right? Like start planning now, sort of thing. So do you have plans to come down from what is traditionally the nuclear threshold?
So our focus and our differentiator is our focus, which is nuclear verdicts. There's other companies out there who are doing what you're suggesting,
Hmm.
but we really are just focused on nuclear verdict. But I should mention, so nuclear verdict, $10 million or more. But our product, we calibrate it for another definition of nuclear, which is 4 times the economics, right? So if the economics are $100,000, there was some sort of car accident, and you actually went and you had real injuries and you had $100,000. If you get hit for $1 million, that's nuclear in our
Yeah.
product.
Okay.
So we have calibrated it, and we can change that. Some of our clients are like, no, 4's too low. Can you do 6? And others are like, can you do it to 2? And so we have calibrated it so that it's 10 million, yes, but it's lower than that as well. Because
So
$1 million hurts a lot of companies.
sure, of course, of course. And so it's almost nuclear could be redefined as just like disproportional verdict, disproportional to the facts, disproportional to, like you said, the economics of it.
Exactly.
It should really be this number, but it's going to be 4 times, 5 times, 6 times that number, but it might not fit like the traditional definition of nuclear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So how has let's talk a little bit about you. How is, so you have an accounting background and you became an insurance professional. How has the accounting background actually helped you, both as an insurance professional? I'm thinking it's probably helped you as a CEO as well. I'm sure your books are nice and clean.
It's really helpful because I understand the impact, right? So like you have these meetings and you're trying to explain to people you need our product and here's the price and they're calculating and I'm like, yeah, but the price and where it sits on your financial statements compared to your loss ratio
Hmm.
and all that. And so, because some of our discussions are with just claims folks and some of them are outside the claims department. And so they're different discussions of which I can have because I've held all those roles. I've been the president of an insurance company. I've led claims departments as a COO, and I've run the accounting teams as well as the CFO. And so I can have those different discussions. But I think knowing the numbers is more important than sharing the numbers, right? So when people start throwing out stuff or whatever, it's like, yeah, that's the impact, or no, that's not the impact, and here's why, and that kind of thing. And so it's been super helpful to have that kind of background.
Okay, so I want to pick at that a little bit more. So you must come across some common misconceptions around some of these things where insurance executives are making common errors. They're thinking one thing, but it's actually this other thing. Are there anything that come to mind? Any kind of misconceptions about claims, about liability, about nuclear verdicts that you're seeing them potentially get wrong on a continual basis?
I think the disconnect is the claims department is the one who's handling the claim and sees the dollars of the nuclear verdict, but it's the rest of the company that's impacted by it, right? Because claims department, most claims people will say, "Well, I can't control that. It was the defense counsel or the plaintiff or the judge or whatever, and that was the jury told us that number." But when it gets to the CFO and the CEO, they're like, yeah, but couldn't you have stopped that? Now that's my bottom line. Because claims folks are not measured by the bottom line on purpose, right? They're not held to a loss ratio because you can't. It's not really good for business, but everyone else is. And so that's the difference is so the real focus is outside the claims department of how do we help the claims department stop these from happening? Because it just ripples through the whole organization. And
Yeah.
when you get to that level and you're having that conversation, that's a buyer. That's someone who's buying this product.
Yeah, and it could, I keep thinking of like when you brought up, you just need to save one claim. It could be $10 million. Like that's significant. And I know like when insurance companies feel the pinch, they start cost cutting and they're looking to shave stuff. So the defense attorney that's like, we got to shave this too. So they may actually be shooting themselves in the foot, being penny wise and pound foolish in
Agreed.
this regard, and you can actually have a conversation around them around no, this is going to affect your bonus, Mr. Mrs. CEO.
Exactly.
Like you just have to save one. You have to save one, and you've paid for this technology manyfold, sort of thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And then not to get too technical on the finance side.
No, let's get technical,
So we
please.
don't believe that our product sits inside the loss ratio, right? It's not an LAE cost. It's a technology cost. Technology sits outside the loss ratio. So by buying our product, you're not going to increase your loss ratio in the hope of reducing it if you stop a
Mhm.
nuclear verdict, right? It's sitting in
Can
operating
can you
expenses.
can you explain the technicalities on that for our audience so they can understand why that's important?
Sure. So LAE, loss adjustment expense, right? So what does it take to handle the claim? The claims people, the lawyers, the estimates, um, the some experts, if you're going to trial, those are loss adjustment expenses. Those all go into the loss ratio. And but everything else, so what does it cost to run to pay the rent for the building that you sit in? What does it cost
Yep.
for your hardware and your software?
Yep.
So we're software, so we believe that we're outside that loss ratio, and so we'll sit in an operating expense line. And so we're not going to increase your loss ratio just by buying our
Yep.
product.
Which affects potentially regulatory stuff, which affects reinsurance, which affects like
Yep.
there's a cascade. Whereas on because I think a lot of folks would say, well, it's an expense. Why does it matter which bucket it goes in? There's much more impact, much more negative impact on the loss ratio side than on the
Correct.
operation side. So you are a tech company now. So you're
Yep.
Insurtech. For folks, are there any conferences for the remainder of the year that you might be attending, maybe Insurtech Connect or whatever, that folks that are watching this, they can reach out to you? Because I have a feeling you're going to get deluged.
That'd be awesome. We are going to ITC in October. We went last year for the first time, and we're going this year. And we've already been chosen by State Farm to give a pitch. State Farm selected 10 Insurtechs to pitch, 5-minute pitch at ITC. And so we're doing that on Tuesday of ITC. And we're really hoping to be able to pitch in the Guidewire Vanguard program as well. At the same time, we're waiting to hear back on that one.
Good.
So
Well, send them a copy of this video. That will push it over the edge. But Denise, this is fabulous technology, fabulous use case. So this is the way, like this is where that blue ocean strategy, I think, really takes hold here. You guys have found something where there's a differentiator. You're sitting in that, not deviating from it, and living it up, so to speak. But anyways, thank you for coming on. This has been incredibly enlightening.
thank you so much, Nick. I'm glad I met you. Thanks to Casey for the introduction, and
Yep.
I appreciate it. And absolutely reach out to me on my website, and I'll give anybody who wants to see it a demo.
Yep. So we will put Denise's information and the company information in the show notes. So listen, folks, one nuclear verdict. So if you have those kinds of liability exposures, you just need to save one, and we're talking about millions of dollars that drop right to the bottom line. So please reach out. Denise, thanks again.
Thanks a lot.